right. According to my clock, it is 1 minute past 5. A warm welcome from my side to today's webinar. For those who don't know me, my name is Stefan Helfrich. I'm responsible for the Educators Alliance here at KNIME, and it's really my pleasure to welcome you today. Good. Without further ado, let me also bring on stage my colleague Paolo from the Berlin studio. He is our presenter today. He is a senior data scientist in the evangelism team at KNIME here. He's walking right into the studio. He will be talking about teaching generative AI and also talk a bit about the experiences that he has made with this format and teaching that in the past. And with that, thank you very much for joining. Thank you for sharing your best practices and your experience with us today, Paolo. Stage is yours.
Thank you, Stefan. Thank you. Yeah, I just connecting here from the Berlin. And yeah, I would like to tell you today about a bit about teaching with KNIME and teaching in particular GenAI, for which we have a special package for you that you can reuse. So let me get started by pulling up some slides here. Stefan will be answering your question in the Q&A, and also we have Shantanu posting some links in the chat, so feel free to engage also there to keep this a bit more interactive, right? So here we go. So today we're going to talk about teaching GenAI, and in particular how to run yourself a GenAI Learnathon, basically reusing this teaching material that we created during last year and is now available on the KNIME Educator Alliance. I'm Paolo Damagnini. I've been working at KNIME for 5+ years now, and I work as a senior data scientist in the evangelism team. And let's here to just see an overview of what we're going to see today a bit visually. So yes, so this session about teaching GenAI is going to cover the experience from the past year about running GenAI Learnathons, that is workshops. We run one in Nottingham, one here in the Berlin office, and one in Hamburg. And we're going to talk about this, how, this crowd community of KNIME users join those events to learn how to use in their KNIME workflow some GenAI. Also, we're going to see a few ideas on how you can enhance your current analytics and data science workflow with GenAI, just a few intuitions, because we cannot deep dive into that. So here, for example, are a few examples. And we're also going to go a bit more in detail in this basically teaching package that is available for you on the KNIME Educator Alliance, and that you can basically join this Educator Alliance if you haven't already, and download and start reusing it. Also, this GenAI topic is changing quite fast, so we plan also to update it as we see new trends in this topic. So what is the agenda of today? So we are going to basically see then an introduction if you're completely new in GenAI and you want to teach it. We're going to see possible use cases, but also stay, being aware of the limitations and trade-offs that we face with this technology. We're going then to cover, why would you teach this topic using low code, that is visual workflows by KNIME. And we're going then to copy some, details on this workshop material, what is the topic that is covering, the structure, and also a bit the logistics. Then some experience from the past GenAI Learnathons. And then finally, we're going to then see how to actually access the material to download it from the KNIME Educator Alliance portal. So let's get started. So a bit of an overview before we get started about KNIME and generative AI. Just to avoid confusion. KNIME offers an AI assistant, and this is a big enhancement for the KNIME Analytics platform. You have a panel on the side. You can request what you want to do, and this enhances the experience as the AI is going to provide documentation, but also add nodes to your workflows automatically. And then there is instead the other topic, which is the new KNIME AI extension made of many prompter nodes and the connector that lets you add basically the execution of an LLM model inside your workflows. We're going to focus more on this. Actually, we're going to see how you can use these new nodes to basically build GenAI applications for your teaching activities. So let's get started then with a quick intro. So what I would like to cover here is just a rough understanding. What are those LLMs? LLM stands for large language models. They emerged in 2018, and basically they are really big in size. As number of trained parameters, they are quite big, and this, of course, it's interesting because it works. It works in the sense that they can generate text that can simulate basically an actual human speech. So large refers to the fact that they are quite they have billions of trainable parameters, and you can see here, for example, GPT-3, how it was small compared to GPT-4, for which we don't know the exact number of parameters, but it is estimated to be around 176 trillions. Those models are extremely complex to train, and so not every company is training them, as they take a lot of computational resources, human resources, data, and time. So lots of resources are required to train those models. Yet the cool thing is that once a company creates a new model, also other company can reuse it. So here is about an evolutionary tree that you can also find online, that is updated from its author from time to time. And you can see how especially the decoder-only architecture has been developed over time as the one that is returning the models that we know the most. You can see here GPT-3 around 2020, and how from there more models like ChatGPT, but also then brand new models like GPT-4, Claude from Anthropic, and Bard from Google, Llama from Meta. And this really shows how from this type of architecture, way more models were released. And we can actually then wonder, how do we keep up when we see so many models being released by different companies? And that's actually a challenge, I must admit. It's quite a challenge. And what can help, even though it's not perfect, are basically leaderboards from, for example, the community of GPT4All or these other Alpaca eval. Those are basically leaderboards that offer you a way to compare models, but they need to be taken with a grain of salt, meaning that they basically can, yes, they are based on a really specific challenge data set, and they are also owned by communities, so they are not, I mean, it's based on open source principles. You have more eyes watching them, but it's sometimes they're not having all the models you would like to compare, for example. This is, however, a good way to see when a new model is trending and you would like to introduce it in your teaching, and also when something new is released, or basically, yeah, it's maybe a way to get started and select your models. All right, so, but how do actually those models work? So you need to see them more as auto-completion system. Basically, text suggestions similar to the ones you have on smartphones. They use probability distribution token by token, so sort of word by word, and basically they fill in and generate text in this way. For this example, you can provide one of these large models, the sky is, and the probability to fill in the word blue is higher between all of the other tokens, and that's how the results will be the sky is blue. But how can we use this for something useful than just, generate text? So let's think a bit more about an example where this could work. All right. So I came out with this really simple example that is based on the principle of few shots prompting, few shot learning. And you basically provide here some example in a structure to have the large language models to provide back a response that basically, looks good, but also is based on the example that you provided temporarily to the large language models. So for example, here, we have here a prompt where we provide here in the instruction what is basically supposed to be translated from English to this really specific Italian dialect from Rome, my city. And yeah, you can see here there are 4 examples that you give for context. For example, hello, hi, what's up, wow, and the translation. And the last one, example, you don't provide a solution. Actually, that is the user input, something they use log in that can come from an application, for example. In this case, could be a user interface like this, where you provide this user input, and you could see the response, the solution given by the application. So let me show you how this would look like actually in KNIME, right? So let me bring back up the screen and KNIME Analytics platform. So here we connected to Azure OpenAI, one of the possible vendors that you can connect in KNIME. And we created, using a KNIME component, this application. Here I provided the examples they have here. So for example, hello and the translation, how are you and the translation, and so on. And I provided them in the input using one of the prompter nodes in KNIME. As I open this application, I can now already try to execute this. For example, I could ask to translate wow, and it's going to look at the example, see that wow is provided, and answer back with a solution. You see how the workflow behind is executing. Oh, let me reset a second this one workflow. Sorry, wasn't. Let's try again. So of course, this is a workflow. It's now a production workflow. It's here within KNIME Analytics platform, free and open source. And we should see now the application running. Live demos, right? Yeah, here we go. Da paura, right? So this expression on how the AI knew this dialect was coming from one of the examples I provided before, right? So let me shrink this a second. So if we go here and we look at the input that I provided, wow was one of the examples. We can also try another one. For example, how are you? And we can see now how the model is executing and finding the correct one, come te butta, right? But interestingly, if I provide something that is outside a few shots that I provided, the large language model still in the same format is able to complete by providing the translation in Italian, right? Which is interesting how it's trying to know something based on data that I didn't provide it. Basta is not Roman dialect, but it is Italian, right? So this could be an example where this application can work, for example. But then now let's bring up a different example, just to understand how this large language model works. So let me here, I need to share the other screen. Hang on a second. Let me bring this back up. And I will switch here. All right, so let's see now a different example, right? So here we are now instead providing a math problem. right? So here we ask with the same example to basically look at numbers and sum all the odd numbers and ask whether the sum of the odd numbers in the set of numbers is an even number or not, right? So we have a few examples that should be correct. So here's the structure. We provide always the same. We provide here 4 examples. And then we basically provide here at the end the user input. And we can also give an introduction to the answer by adding a double point to the input of the model. And we can actually then see maybe, is this going to work? Is it going to say true or false? And is it going to answer correctly? Let's try it out again, right? So I'm now going back to KNIME and re-executing now a different workflow. And this other workflow is now connecting to the OpenAI API, a different vendor for large language models that this set of nodes offers. And now we can see here the examples where we provided true or false. This time, maybe I can also explore a bit more and we can go inside the component and see how it is basically an LL prompter that we concatenate in a single string all these different numbers. You see here how this is the same text I was providing before in the slide, right? And we can see how we provide all these examples, and we see how maybe the answer is going to be this time, all right? So let me go one level back and open again the application. All right, so now if I provide maybe a really easy one, right? Like for example, just 1 and 1, and ask the AI, this set of number, if you sum the odd numbers, is this true or false? Is this going to be an even number, true or false? It's only 2 odd numbers, 1 and 1. 1 plus 1 equal 2. It should tell me true, right? Instead, it's providing false, right? You can see that it's filling in the information how we would expect with either a true or a false, how we instructed it to, but it doesn't, it just says false. I can also try here to add another even number, and it's not able to perform this task, simply not able to. So now let's go see maybe another example where it might be, right? For example, one of the example here that says true here from the input data from the example we show to the chatbot. We paste it in here, we execute, and this time it says true. So you can see that this approach that you show examples, it works maybe for problems where you have actually enough examples that are, predictable what the user is what the application is going to execute on, and that what is going to be. For math problems, in most cases, you just change a tiny part and the solution becomes different. So these large language models are really not able for this type of problem. So let's actually bring up the slides again to explore this, to summarize a bit here what we learned. So let me here. Well, all right. So again, will this work? No, it didn't work, right? So how do LLMs think? LLMs possess only probabilistic knowledge and lack the semantic understanding, right? So they are basically called intelligent, but they're not really aware of what they're saying. And that's why if you provide an example that maybe they've seen over and over again, like 1 + 2 = 3, they're able to answer. But as soon as you provide something that they cannot ever seen before, because it's really unlikely, because there are many scenarios out there that you can provide as input from the reality around us, then they're not going to be able. So for example, in our set of numbers to detect the sum of odd numbers, wasn't aware of what it was doing, and so it was straight up lying and always saying false. The workflows are on the KNIME Community Hub. You can look for the on my profile and also test it yourself, and maybe let me know what you think. All right, so let's see now a bit more general, possible use cases for these GenAI applications. I see here 2 categories. And I would say that there is lots of opportunities to add Gen AI in your current workflows. Data science workflows, data wrangling, analytics workflows, those workflows can be enhanced with Gen AI. This is possible through this new extension. And if you're teaching already those topics, you can think, for example, on how descriptive text generated by this Gen AI can help maybe in your visualizations, maybe in describing the predictions of your model and so on. This is possible, but it's, I think, the most realistic approach where combining what you already are doing in KNIME with these new nodes can be extremely useful. But of course, there is also seeing GenAI as the core functionality, right? Here, it means that at the real core of your application, GenAI is one of these LLMs is executing, right? And this is then important to see what it works and what it does not. And of course, all of here, we are talking about teaching, right? So based on what you're teaching, maybe you want to also pick up one of these core applications. So let's use a few examples to understand what I'm talking about. So by enhancement, we are probably talking about using the LLM prompter node, for example, that is really good for generating text without any kind of chat experience. And like I was doing before, just to solve a problem, right? So for example, you could use in classic ML, you can generate explanations. We have many machine learning interpretability nodes, basically XAI nodes. And you can use the LLM prompter to basically out loud translate those predictions, those explanations in the sentences that explain why that prediction was predicted that way by the classic machine learning problem. Another thing you could do is to automate the message based on a machine learning prediction. So for example, we have a fraud, an anomaly detected by a classic machine learning model, and we basically want to automate the step happening after to basically send this message, and the message is nice and complex and understand this complexity by basically using GenAI. Something else that we could do is data storytelling. KNIME offers many views and UI, like data app functionalities and reporting functionalities. And all of these can basically be enhanced by GenAI, where you can put better labels, better captions around your graph, or explaining out loud what that KPI means and what action should be taken. Instead of simply putting the data out there, you can also guide a bit more on what the data means and what action should be taken, right? So augmenting basically with descriptive text the story that you're telling through data. And again, this is similar, it just maybe a bit more business settings using dashboards and the KPIs, right? And of course, this is possible. And I have a few examples here where you can use a custom LLM deployment that you connect through KNIME using Hugging Face or OpenLLM, or the public APIs like OpenAI, or an open source model like open source local framework like GPT-4All. All right, let's see now instead some core examples where GenAI is really at the core of your applications. So first we have information completion. So basically the idea that you're just automating human work through GenAI, and this can be labeling documents, summarizing documents, segment documents by topic. Of course, all of these applications that used to be done by old school text mining techniques are possible now through these large language models. On top of that, you can also maybe take it another level and also generate FAQs from raw forum data. You can maybe look at the document and maybe connect this document to a product from your portfolio. And so this basically connecting products to documents is something that it works really well. Of course, you can also automate email reports with descriptive text, right? So here is, again, another example. Here you have a component, you connect to GPT-4All, and then this email is sent out, and it's mostly generated by GenAI. Then there is also a use case, another one. Of course, many are talking about that. To be honest, it's the one I'm hearing the most, is about chatbots. Yes, you can also do it in KNIME if you want. And we basically offer here the chat model prompter node, and you can use this chat model prompter node with the widget nodes and the refresh button node and so on, and you can really create chat applications that go and check the knowledge of your company through vector stores and retrieval augmented generated and conversational agents. We also have an agent node based on LangChain. So if you want to go down this route, let's say that KNIME offers the features also for that. All right, but let's now discuss some risk and limitations here about this technology, right? So it has to be said that there is an explainability issue here, right? So LLMs are basically black boxes. It's really hard here to understand what they said and why, right? And there are XA techniques, but they are not really working for these use cases here. So explainability is a big issue because you need to trust your application before you can deploy it, and this is a big issue, right? Of course, testing can help this, but something to keep in mind. Hallucination, toxic content, copyright infringement. This is another big topic. I have here some news. There was an issue with a chatbot that was swearing at a customer. There was another issue of the Times suing OpenAI over copyrighted material. So of course, these large language models, they learn through the context that you provide, but also they learn from whatever they found on the internet, which might be toxic, which might be under copyright, or they can also just make up stuff. So this is a big issue to take into consideration. There is also another problem here, is that these APIs are basically cheap when you want to use them, but they are public, right? So you might have some serious data leakage outside of your organization if you use those cheap public APIs. The other issue is that if instead you want to have a private deployment of an LLM, you should first look up how much it's going to cost hardware-wise, because GPU are most often required for low latency application, and GPU tends to be expensive. So this is something to keep in mind. All right, let's move on the topic of this session. Really, that some context was needed, but let's focus here about teaching generative AI with low code and why would that be of interest for your class. So let's focus on maybe 3 topics here: accessible for all student backgrounds. That's a big topic. The creativity of your students by using this technology, it's something fun to think of, and also the fact that KNIME offers you a model agnostic framework. So what it means accessible for all students' backgrounds? But well, the point here is that you might have students that can code, and then through coding, there are many libraries available out there. But if you have students expert in a domain that don't know how to code, you can still teach them to use these GenAI techniques without coding. Also, visual workflow of KNIME are intuitive. And also interesting, you can change with this approach the input data that you provide as context to your large language model. For example, here you're building a vector store, and the vector store is being created by reading a PDF, and you can really customize here the input data for the PDF, whether it's healthcare students, business students, law students, engineering students, and you can really change this text input and see how the AI is going to react to them. Then we have also the topic of unleashing the creativity of your students, and that basically means that you can combine the AI nodes with also other KNIME extension. KNIME offers thousands of nodes, all right? So you can really combine geospatial analysis with LLMs. You can combine old school KNIME text processing with LLMs. You can combine process mining, network mining, image processing, and also if you really want to go down the robot process automation, we have also Slack integration. There is really lots of nodes to combine LLMs with, and KNIME already offers them within the open source offering. You can also build visual workflows that basically simulate the chain of thought strategy that you might have heard about. So here is a quick example. We have an input and a question of a user is maybe off topic. We can ask the LLM to decide whether the LLM is going off topic or not, and then ask finally the LLM whether to answer the question or not, because we don't want maybe the application to answer questions when they're not about the problem that the application should solve, right? So this is through visual workflows of KNIME, you can really build super custom solution, and it's something to keep in mind. So as you can see, multiple calls to solve a task. And then, of course, if you want to go into accessing data from different places, KNIME also offers many connectors, and you can also maybe get data engineering students to play with these concepts on where is the data coming from and how can then the LLM be applied by blending the data from all these different sources. And let's say that right now everyone is excited about, let's say, GPT-4 or GPT whatever, from OpenAI. One day, maybe you want to change your teaching material to something totally different, like a different entire model. KNIME offers different connectors, like I was showing before in the examples. And so you should be able, maybe by connecting with the different models that was released in GPT-4All, or connecting to a different model that is available on the Hugging Face Hub, you can really pick the model of your choice and still use the workflows that you already have. So this is something to keep in mind. All right, so let's talk a bit more about the GenAI Learnathon itself. So this session that we ran last year, and we would like now to offer this teaching material to you to basically run it as you see fit. So this is basically a Learnet. So first of all, what is a Learnet? A Learnathon is a mix between a workshop and an hackathon, all right? So it's a Learnathon because it's a workshop because you can basically implement the solutions in different groups, and people still learn about a new topic, right? So they learn about a new topic. So there is the workshop part and there is the hackathon part, because it's an hands-on session. People are there and they, in practice, apply what they are learning. So it's in between a workshop and hackathon. KNIME offered many of these Learnathon in the past. You can see here on the left a few of them: fraud detection, classic data science, teens crunch data for teenagers too. We have really many different workshop formats. This one that we want to tell you about today is the GenAI one. The GenAI one that is about learning this new set of nodes. That is the KNIME AI extension that we talk about, and how to call these LLMs. This is the topic of the Learnet. This extension was released just last summer, so it's all a pretty new topic for KNIME users. All right, so let's now take a look at how this workshop format is structured, right? So it usually starts with an intro to KNIME. Yes, because especially if you want this event to be public to any user or interested user in your community, then you might have people that show up and they don't know KNIME, right? So you want to give an introduction. What is KNIME? What is a node? What are workflows? And this usually we make a live demo, no many slides. You just jump into the software and you show it to your crowd and you show what KNIME is for. This is going around 20 minutes, and you can also have optional slides to maybe be a bit more precise on the important topics. Then we have the GenAI Learnathon introduction. This takes around 20 minutes, like similar to what I did. You give an introduction to the GenAI topic, and maybe you deep dive a bit more in the topics that you want to focus on GenAI. And we have slides for this that you can reuse. And you can, of course, maybe give a few live demos like I did today, right? You just open KNIME and show them. Then next, you have maybe some building of your custom chatbot data app, right? This is the exercise we have. We might change it in the future, but this is the session that you can have people to basically open their laptops and solve the exercise that we're going to see in a second. And like I said, chatbot is one of the possible ways to use GenAI in KNIME. It's just the one that we currently provide right now. And if you have less than an hour, maybe you can solve this exercise live in front of your crowd. If you instead want to have more time, and maybe you can have everyone to open their laptop and solve this exercise. I think it's a great way also to talk about this technology informally and see where it works and where it does not, right? So I think it's really nice when the interaction with the audience becomes a bit more informal as everyone is around tables working on those workflows. Finally, there is a networking that we usually have at the end, and this is basically done do after or during the hands-on session. And if you want to cause the event with KNIME can help you with the sponsoring of this food and drinks in your community. This is something to keep in mind if you're interested, and I'll tell you later how you can host such an event with us in your region. All right, so let's see here the topic covered about GenAI in this workshop. So the workshop, like I did today, covers this GenAI intro, right? What are large language models? How do they work? Where do they not work? What are those leaderboards? But then it's not just that, right? It goes a bit more in detail. In fact, there are 4 levels to customize large language models. And basically, we offer slides for you to teach a bit of prompt engineering, hyperparameter tuning, retrieval, augmented generation, and conversational retrieval agents. We provide together with the slides some documentation for you to learn more on these topics, right? And I think that's important before you plan to do this presentation. Next, we have an introduction to KNIME AI notes, right? So we have some pointers to current material we have, and then basically showing basically how you can deploy or not these large language models and other possible use cases. And finally, which we're going to cover in a second, the GenAI Learnathon exercise. So basically, what is the exercise going to be and how it's going to work? And of course, you can customize this section as much as you want, but we provide some template for you. And then also added in the slides some how-tos, like how to import the exercise and so on, so people don't feel lost at the end of the kickoff of this GenAI Learnathon. So let's talk about exercise. The exercise is a manual instruction book. And basically, this manual book is having lots of description about this coffee machine. We actually have it here in the Berlin office, and it was really hard to use. And I thought, hey, maybe I can help here, right? This is lots of information on how the coffee machine works, and you can provide then an application that you can then insert questions about this document about this coffee machine, and the application can answer based on the manual book. This is an example. We ask, tell me more about this specific term, and the AI can read inside the text and find whether this milk jug will change color to highlight the exact milk temperature, and something about the temperature of the milk should be 60 and 65 degrees, and you can see how the application is able to answer this. So how is this application then built during the exercise? We have 3 sections of the exercise, and they go in increasing difficulty. The first one is how to create the knowledge base. Then we have how to use the large language model as a completion task. And then we have the actual building of the application and then also its deployment on KNIME Business Hub if you have a KNIME Business Hub, and that's another topic that we are going to cover in a second. So the creation of the knowledge base basically takes this manual book PDF and partition this into sentences and provide those sentences in to a vector store. So basically embeddings, the embeddings model of the model you selected are going to create vectors for this PDF you provide, and these vectors can then be stored via model writer and be used later in your application. Of course, this section you can expand if you want to blend many different sources to build your vector store. And the KNIME is really good to get data from different places and blending them together. So the creation of the vector store can be highly custom here. We provided some really simple, and this is perfect for a beginner to just learn how to drag in nodes and connect them and execute them. Then next we have the completing this completion task. We have a list of questions from this Excel reader node, and the Excel reader is going to read the question on the coffee machine. How do I fix this? How do I clean it in such a way? And these questions are then used to retrieve the pieces of the PDF that we created a vector store first, then combine these text that we found in the PDF with a question, and then applying the LLM to actually answer the question. And then we can also compare it with I also provided not just the question, some actual answer copy pasted from the PDF, and you can see where it's working and where it's not working, right? So this is a topic that is interesting too, right? Like the evaluation and the testing of the LLM. So this part is, I'd say, still easy because you don't need to understand too much about building the data app, right? It's really about executing in a workflow questions and answers by the LLM. And finally, we have the most advanced one, which is basically building the chatbot, and that is building this application where the user can ask without any knowledge the questions to the LLM, and you can see here, like that's basically what I was showing a bit before. And of course, you can customize this further if you want to make a more complex data app. Finally, this is the user interface of the chat application, and you can also provide some context to make the AI present itself. The final exercise, and it's totally optional for the attendees and also for you, in case you don't want to sync with our team and can get access to a KNIME Business Hub. And basically, that's the idea that you can basically upload a workflow and to the commercial software of KNIME called KNIME Business Hub, and then you can actually see how the final data app looks on the web browser. So basically, that's how the user can access this application. So here is the example that I go on my Google Chrome and execute and see on my Google Chrome how the final application looks like. All right, so some logistics regarding this exercise. I would send absolutely a reminder with some checklists to the attendees before running the event. Stuff like coming with a laptop fully charged, KNIME Analytics platform already installed, otherwise the workshop becomes more about how to install KNIME Analytics platform rather than the actual exercise. So some to-dos for the students. Also, you can ask them to install the required extension and also basically import the exercises. Something, I had someone from the Italian community already came up with this. Why not use a custom PDF, right? Why use the coffee machine? You can really use whatever you want. So if you download the exercise and basically you provide this to this PDF parser a different exercise, maybe you can make an exercise that is more about engineering or more about a law use case or a business use case, an healthcare use case. It's really up to you what PDF you want to provide here. And if you're a KNIME user, it should be really easy for you to change this data source. And I think this is something to keep in mind. We provide, with the teaching package, instructions on how you can change to the PDF of your liking. All right, and now I would like to cover a bit of experience from the past GenAI Learnathon. Just to tell you how it went for us, right? So we had a few events last year. The first one was in Hamburg. And by the way, there are recordings for all of them on the YouTube channel if you want to watch them. 150 plus registration. We had around 30 people showing up. Then we have the one in Nottingham, Trent University. That was still the same amount of registration, even though there was the week after that. And yeah, and we kept on going also in Berlin, in our office. And I would like to share a bit experience how fun this type of session were. Now that we're totally out from the pandemic, it's great that we can go back to these on-site events. And but first, I would say, before getting on some comments on this experience, some important comment here is that you can host, if you want, this event with KNIME. Actually, KNIME offers a possibility for you and your local community to basically host a data connect. That's how we call them, the events for our community. And you can basically co-host this event, but it then needs to be public, meaning that anyone interested in KNIME in your region can show up at this event. And yeah, what you get by making the event public and co-hosting with that, well, KNIME is going to promote it, of course, on our channels, but you also can then access demos on KNIME Business Hub and show also this productionization aspect of KNIME. You can also give access to the attendees to this KNIME Business Hub. So it's not just for the presentation. You can also give access, and also you can give access to the OpenAI APIs that we provide for you just for the day, because that's something that maybe the attendees doesn't come with its own APIs, right? And you cannot just expect everyone to use the same OpenAI credentials. So that's something to keep in mind. If you're interested to co-host a Data Connect, whatever is your geographical location, we have a form that you can fill in, and in this form, we can then reach back to you on, co-hosting it with you. There is also a blog on Run, a data science community event, and maybe that is a bit more general about, announcing and hosting and promoting in your local region and language. All right, a few more tips and tricks from my experience. So public events, basically, you're going to have both beginners and really expert KNIME users showing up at your event. So what can we do about that? Well, during the KNIME demo, it's really important that the beginners understand KNIME. Otherwise, the session afterwards is not going to be fun for them. So make sure that you show KNIME, you move really slowly, you show the tool in practice, and you also maybe show exactly the key interaction that are going to do afterwards. That is basically how to find a node, how you insert the node in the workflow, how you connect the node, how you configure it, and how you execute it. Some attendees might be new to the concept of configuring a workflows or a data task in general. So you might want to go really slow on this. I found this really useful for then anyone to be a bit more independent later on. During the GenAI session, you might actually get many questions about, can I do this with KNIME and this, and then you run out of time. Try to postpone this question later, and so people can then come to you, and then you can also have a bit more informal conversation about this new topic. As a general point of view, don't overpromise what GenAI can do, and always ask them, it's something that maybe you can try and then see whether it's going to work or not, as we're all learning from this all really new topic in data. And during the hands-on, you're going to have people that really need your help. So go around the tables, maybe have experienced user, beginners, and maybe this is also a bit more fun and formal, and maybe people are there also to connect, so that's totally fine. And yeah, if there is time at the end, I will show the solution. So people at the end, even if they didn't solve everything, they have something to take home and they so how to develop the final solution from you, right? So save some time at the end to show the live solution. All right. And then we almost reached the end of this session. We have 10 minutes left, I believe. I would like just to spend a few more words on how you actually can access this material on the KNIME Educator Alliance. So first of all, the KNIME Educator Alliance is available on knime.com/educators for anyone teaching KNIME to sign up. And besides saying that you're part of this alliance of people teaching KNIME, what is really interesting for you? Well, we offer different kits, right? So whether you are looking for teaching material, once you join this alliance, you can download them all for free, not just the GenAI Learnathon, even basic KNIME courses. We have gamification kit, like for example, challenges and for your students, and a collaboration kit in case you want to, for example, do research and need some support or conferences. Maybe we can help you. And so that's the kind of thing we offer. Once you join the KNIME Educator Alliance, you can then access the educator portal. And that basically means that it's a portal that is offline and basically only for people that have access, they can log in, and this is how it looks. Welcome to the KNIME Educator Alliance portal, and you can actually find in there the hands-on teaching of generative AI. We also have a button there to cast a data connect together, but really important, you can find a download for a zip file. And this zip file essentially offers you to download both notes and some wrap-up slides for the demo, and also some outline of what the demo is going to cover. And also, of course, the GenAI Learnathon itself, slides and exercises. I also offer here the README, and the README will give you all the useful links to learn and study GenAI. The GenAI Learnathon is available in this zip, but is also available in the KNIME Community Hub. If you look for it, you should be able to find it. And we reach the end now of the session, and we can now start the QA session. This is the QR code to request to do a data connect with us. And on the other end, we have here instead the Educator Alliance, that if you're teaching KNIME and you are not part of yet, go there, scroll to the bottom, and you should find a form to basically sign up and get access to all this material. Thank you. I will now stop the sharing, and now we can go to the Q&A session.
Thank you very much, Paolo, for this very insightful session. There are indeed a couple of questions in the Q&A. There's one question: are you providing the workflows that you're showing here? That was already a while back. It was mostly about the use cases that you showed in the first part of your presentation.
Yeah, we are indeed working on some solutions for you to actually see how you can augment your analytics and data science and data wrangling workflows with GenAI. Those would give you more the intuition of what's possible. And we're working on releasing them soon, just we want to do it in the right way, so they are not yet available. We will make sure you are informed, Vladimir, when those are going to become available. Thank you.
I'll quickly add on top of that, there is actually a dedicated space on Community Hub on AI extension examples. We'll drop that
maybe
in the chat.
Not exactly the one that I showed, but more of them on how to use the single nodes a bit more in detail. Of course, we can we add it to the chat? Maybe Stefan.
Yes.
Yeah,
it's a
dedicated space from the developer team, and yes, we offer those simple example on how to use the LLM prompter, the chat model prompter, but they should get you started with the core applications of using GenAI 9.
Great, thank you. I throw in a more technical question. Are there connectors for Hugging Face open source LLM models?
Yes, there is a connector for the Hugging Face hub that basically means using the public API by Hugging Face to select the LLMs and use them. But also we offer the Hugging Face TLI, I think it's called. Basically, this is providing you the possibility to provide a URL, which can be a public deployment of an Hugging Face large language models, or also a private one using such a framework. So we offer quite a few integration with Hugging Face.
Great, thank you very much. There's one more high-level question from Hardik. If I upload a JSON file to KNIME, can I ask GenAI questions and values and request it to plot a graph?
Yeah, but for this, I would recommend using the new Apache eChart node. And basically, this eChart node is offering you the possibility within the configuration of this node to create a JSON, and the JSON creates the charts using this library. Of course, you can use the LLMs from the prompter nodes like we showed. You can take in a JSON file and build the whole application, but I would recommend checking out first this node so you don't create a workflow that is doing what a KNIME node is already doing on its own. So maybe take a look. It's called eCharts.
Great, thank you. I'll just take one that we can maybe answer live. Andreas asking if we've ever run a competition where several implementations of the same app got scored at the end of the event and won an award. Is that feasible? I think he's referring to the Learnathon and making it more a challenge than a workshop.
Yeah, that could be interesting, right? Like, so that's the point, that it is not a hackathon, it's a learnathon, because people are new to the topic and learn before just basically arriving there ready to fight and win. But technically, we could totally do this. We have for this maybe more than 9 student challenges where we partner with a professor, right, Stefan? And we work with the professor or the whoever wants to run it, and we work with them on defining the challenge and also awarding the students that win the challenge. But it's something that doesn't take only 3 hours, right? The Learnathon is for someone to just show up at the event, learns KNIME, and at the same time applies those concepts. Maybe not something to take it to such a level, but we could try, right?
Correct. Thank you for that pointer. I also dropped the link to the KNIME student challenges in the chat. Feel free to take a look at that. We have a call currently open for those. Good. There are a couple more questions here. We are running out of time, so I would suggest that we actually get back to you folks individually if your questions have not been answered already. Again, thank you very much, Paolo, for your presentation. You will receive a follow-up email also with the slides and the recording of today's webinar. Might actually have to wait until next week because our marketing department is on a retreat and they will only return next week. But you will receive that information. Thank you again very much. Have a good evening, have a good rest of the day, and hope to see you all soon. Thank you.